everybody, Fantasticairy here, back with another video. In this week's video I decided to collect some leaves so that I could paint a full page of fallen leaves of September. We're not quite into the autumn colors just yet, but some leaves have started to turn early, so I wanted to take advantage of that and try painting some of these interesting textures. I start in by sketching out the shape of the overall leaf with a very light in value color. I'm going to go with yellow, making sure I water down the yellow so that it's just very light and so I can go over with the dark colors. I'm using a mix of dry brush technique and wet brush technique. The leaf I'll be painting in particular here is the maple leaf. Now that I have an overall shape, I'm going to go in with just a little bit more of a saturated value of that yellow. It's almost a yellow and orange color. I'm being shy with putting more water on the page and going in with even more saturation. And I'm going to start adding in some reds and oranges, kind of dispersing the water in concentrated areas. And you can see I've used a very saturated red color to go over top. And then I noticed the leaf had some brown patches, so I decided to use the wet on wet technique to recreate that texture. I love how the watercolor paint blends together and dries in the most interesting ways. That's why experimenting is super important as an artist, especially in the watercolor medium, because you never really know what you're going to get in the end. I'm now going to take some green mixed in with a lemon yellow. And as you can see, after everything's all dry, we get this really cool, unique looking texture for our base of our leaf. And now that we have our base, I'm going to start adding in the minor details, all these little vines that sit on the skin of the leaf, using my 01 fine liner brush. Perfect for this wispy, liney detail. Being careful not to have too much water paint on my brush, as I want to keep these lines super thin and organic. Trying to keep my brush as light as possible to get finest lines I possibly can, and making sure they're not straight. I want them to look natural. The leaf honestly has a lot more tiny veins and lines on it. The details are endless, so I kept it a little bit more on the simple side when it came to these lines on the skin of the leaf. I added in some more little tiny lines. The lines on top of this textured base looks really interesting, and I'm liking the overall look so far. This was a lot of fun to paint. Now that I have my lines detailed in roughly, I'm gonna start adding even more tiny little details of texture by dotting in some of these speckles around the leaf. Because it's been raining lots these days, a lot of the leaves are being infected by a fungus, which causes some of the parts to brown and then also gives us this really unique texture, which was a lot of fun to recreate with watercolor paint. I believe I also used my 01 liner brush for this. And then I'm gonna go back to those brown spots and add in some even darker contrast to them to make them pop just a little bit more. Also using that same kind of dotting technique with my 01 liner brush. You can use another paintbrush too. I think I just got too caught into the details and I forgot to switch to my other brush. From here on out, guys, I'm gonna let you enjoy the final reveal of the sketchbook page, and I'll see you at the end for the end result. Enjoy the final reveal with some music. Here's the final result. It was a lot of fun painting this page. I learn a little bit each time when I'm trying to recreate textures, and it definitely always turns out more stylistic than realistic, but I'm okay with that. I really like the contrast between the real life reference and then of course the watercolor images. The greens, the oranges, the reds really blended well together. And I filled in some of the gaps with just the wet on wet technique, leaving some white, almost like a mosaic abstract kind of look around the leaves. I think my favorite of the leaf was definitely the maple leaf. But yeah, this was a lot of fun to paint, and I'm definitely going to be painting more leaves come autumn colors, as we're almost midway through September already. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for all your comments. They really make the day, and I'll be excited to paint more leaves in the future. You can find me on the social medias in the link in the description below, as well as my imprint shop, where you can purchase prints, stickers, and the artwork I've done thus far. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next week, because videos are every Friday. Okay, bye-bye!